So, hi everybody, this is also Hub. I'm Giacomo, and today I'm with Falc from Talk to See. He runs a channel and he has some expertise in finance. He worked in consulting and then went into private banking, but he's also a great creator, very interesting channel. I will link it, of course, in the description because you got to see it. And Falk, please introduce yourself, and then we'll get into the topics of today, the consulting, private banking, and so on.
No, of course. Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. Super happy to be here and to do this with you. Yeah, like Jaco mentioned, I have a channel with a colleague of mine called Barney. We do videos specializing in personal finance and also self-development and also more fun things here and there. We've been doing it for around 3 years now. We post videos every single Wednesday. So if you guys are interested, please check it out. And I also work in private banking. I work for a big bank in their ultra high net worth practice. So focusing with clients that have, a little bit more money than Giacomo and I have right now. And I work in that. And then before I was working for a big consulting firm, but I realized I wanted to change to something more finance oriented, where I think it's the great thing that I can, talk a little bit about today, because I think my path is a little different than the usual because I switched industries after working 2 years. So yeah, happy to talk about it today.
Okay. So yeah, let's start off with your academic background. Why did you choose finance, and were you interested in these topics in the first place? I think that even the videos that you started off with you were talking about books that talk about personal finance and so on. So you had a big interest even back then, I guess.
Yeah. So when I went to college, I had a few ideas of what I wanted to study, which I think it's everyone. I was thinking about being a lawyer because my dad's a lawyer. I was thinking about medicine because I liked it a little bit. As I got through high school, so to normal school here, I realized that I could discard a few of them because I didn't like the classes. So I realized that, medicine wasn't really going to be my thing because I didn't like chemistry, and a few like that. I always liked math, but I didn't really like the sciences. And I took an economics class when I was in senior year, like they required it here in your last year in high school, and I loved it. I fell in love with it. I to this day, I think economics is my favorite topic. And and for me, it was pretty simple. For me, it was what are the classes that if I decide to study a career, I'm going to look forward to going to class. Because when you go to college, you don't have to do the topics that you don't like, maybe the first few years. But then it was just, I just have to pick a career that I know will serve me after I graduate, but also will give me something that I look forward to learning in class. So I started economics, loved it. Everything was great. And then I did an internship in finance, working in financial services, so helping people with retirement and things like that. And I started working a little more in finance, and I like that economics gave me the macro perspective, and finance was very specific. So I ended up doing finance as well and did a few internships when I was in college. I worked for a company doing their corporate finance. I did this financial services internship, and ended up doing finance. And when I graduated, I knew that I wanted to do something focused in finance because working in economics can be very hard when you don't have like a PhD, like a master's. And that's that. So for me, I do look at these things very simplistic, and it's study something that you think you're going to look forward to going to class. That way you don't skip it and you actually go. And then you're gonna have classes that you really like, you're gonna have classes that you don't like that much. And the best thing is when you find something that you understand and you find interesting, see what are the things that you can do in the real world to apply that.
Okay. So, talking about the books, because you made a lot of videos about the books, what are the books that you think are important for people working in finance so that maybe already have that background knowledge of university, but you think are still valuable to understand, to have that, philosophy even once you have the accounting knowledge, the finance knowledge, the economics knowledge?
Right. So even if you study finance, it's gonna be a great book. And if you didn't study finance and you just want to switch into finance, for example, I don't know if it happens. I know in Italy it happens a little bit too because I have a few friends that have gone to school there. But for example, here in the US, companies love hiring people that didn't study finance and study something engineering, specifically what's it called? In Spanish it's called production engineering. Here is it called industrial engineering. So industrial engineering here in the United States, they say it's like the engineering that has a focus in business, and companies love hiring. So even for people that are like that, that didn't take that many finance classes, I think the best book that you could read ever, because it's literally a summary of my entire finance career and finance classes, is a book called Random Walk Down Wall Street. I don't know if you ever heard of it.
Yeah, I heard about it. Never read
Right.
it.
So so it's really, really good. It was written by a professor from Princeton called Burton Malkiel. He wrote the first book in the 1980s, and he was actually the person that said that they should create an ETF that tracked the S&P 500 or any major index in the market. And then after that, they literally created the S&P, the SPY and the IBB and all these ETFs. And ever since then, he's done 18 different versions of the book. I think he just reads the 19th with the same content from the beginning, but also updated. So like when he did it back then, he will talk about different bubbles. When he does it now, he will talk about more recent bubbles like '09 and things like that, but also like super recent things like the crypto bubble, like what he thinks about crypto and things like that. That book is a little long and it can be a little technical, but it's amazing. Like that's one of the few books that I own that I don't lend out, and I'm such a big fan that I actually got it signed by him. So that's the biggest one. If you're gonna read one book, it's that. After that, I actually haven't read that many on my own because I've read a lot of books, for school and for the certifications and things like that. But I have a joke that every single person that works in finance or likes finance is gonna purchase The Intelligent Investor, which is a really thick red book that Warren Buffett loves, and is never gonna read it because the book is around 750 pages. I'm one of them. I have it right here, and I've never used it, never read it. So those are two, and then there's a few others. I think that if you're really really into reading finance and you finish one or two of the ones that I mentioned, the CFA Society has a list of their 10 best books from finance, um, and you can do it there. What I do like reading a little more is economics. So, for example, there's a book that I love called Naked Economics, that is economics explained for people that don't love economics. So explain super simple, no graphs, no numbers, nothing. It's just the person talking to you, like if it was Naked Economics. Love that book. His name is Charles Whelan. He's a professor in Dartmouth, and he has a few other books. He has Naked Money, he has Naked Statistics, and a few others. And I think those are a few good to start with.
Okay. I read The Intelligent Investor, lent it to a classmate, never got it back, but yeah. Anyway,
Oh,
so
you're one of the few that actually read it because not a lot of people do.
yeah, absolutely. I missed the other ones, but yeah, I'll try to read them as well. So, after you've finished with university, what made you go the consulting route? Did you have various opportunities and you chose that route, or it was random and then you stick with it for some time?
No, I did choose consulting. So my goal like in life and my dream job like super far down the road is actually being a teacher. It's pretty corny like we say here in the US, but it's always being a teacher. When I was in high school, I was always a tutor for people that were under me in classes, like people that were younger than me. And then when I was in college, I was a tutor for student athletes, so people that play sports that need additional help with classes, and I always loved it. Like I've always loved teaching. It's one of my passions, but it didn't pay well. That's the reality here in the United States. I think in Europe it's a little better, but teaching just doesn't pay well.
Not here. But
Right. So I didn't want to do that, and I
Maybe
didn't
in
want to be a
Germany they
college.
pay well. Maybe in Germany.
Yeah, no, it's a shame because teachers don't do so much for everyone. I have teachers that I love dearly, and I have other teachers that I don't love that much, but it's so important. But I knew I wanted to do it in the long term. So what I thought was, once again, same thing for my classes of what is something that I find interesting. What I thought was I can't teach because at least not right now, because I do want to make more money than what a teacher makes right now. But for the next few years down the road, I'm gonna be happy to switch. But I want to find something similar, right? Something that has a little bit of the same quality because what I enjoy really is teaching people stuff. It's like sitting down, explaining a concept. And I realized that I didn't want to do what we call here corporate finance, which is doing finance for like a company. So like a big company, you do everything finance related. I didn't want to do that because it just didn't click with me with the industry that I did. And I saw that consulting, I did have that opportunity because at the beginning when you're working in consulting, you're doing a lot already job. You're doing a lot of the behind the scenes, so you're not sitting down with a person that much or like the client. But I feel like when you're doing consulting, you're trying to explain something. It does give you the opportunity of being a teacher a little bit, of sitting with the client and explaining them something or teaching them something that you're trying to consult on. So I did that. So that was my mindset. And I think that's one of the things that helped me land a job in consulting was different than a lot of people that were in my school that just wanted to do consulting because it sounded cool or because they just didn't know what they wanted to do. I had a little bit of a story that I could tell, and that's what helped me. So that's why I went into consulting, and it did help me in that way. What I was looking for, I did find a little bit. The issue was that the type of consulting that I was doing wasn't my favorite. I was doing technology consulting, specifically very specific. I don't think a lot of people watching are going to understand, but we were doing consulting on the Sarbanes-Oxley Act, which is an act that came out in 2002, a bunch of regulations and law that came out in 2002, 2001, after the dot-com bubble, that did a lot of regulations for public companies here in the United States. Giacomo, to be honest with you, I hated it. Like, I was not happy. I wasn't sad, but the best metric for me was that my days were too long. Like work just took forever. Like I will sit down to work and it would take me forever to work. And that's when I decided to switch into wealth management, which is what I do now.
Okay. And how did that happen, that transition, was it smooth? Did you have to adjust the skill set that you needed to work in banking, in wealth management, or the skills that you had for consulting were more than enough already for the type of job that you were about to go do in banking?
Well, even though I didn't love my job for the 2 years, if I will go back, I will definitely do it again because I can't tell you much about Sarbanes-Oxley and all the things that I did for 2 years. Because to be honest, I've always been curious, but I just didn't like the topic, so I didn't learn that much. But it did help me a lot as far as so what I was doing is consulting, kind of auditing, because it was we were a lot of times we had the approach of consulting companies, a lot of times we had the approach of being the auditors of the companies, for what I was saying. And that mindset of being an auditor, of being extremely detail oriented, which is a word that it's a little bit too used when it's interviewing in finance. But when you're an auditor, you have to dig very deep to find very specific things. Those are the skills that really help me. So even if you can go from being someone that works in construction management to be someone that works in finance. There's going to be skills you're going to be able to apply. Because when you work in finance, you might doing interest rates and stocks and bonds, which is something that you don't do in construction management. But there are a few skills that you can directly apply that will help you. So for me, what helped me the most was 2 years of honing down that ability of being very detail oriented, also working with numbers. It's something that helped me that I think translated very quick. I always make the joke of the office when we have an issue and we're trying to find a solution of thank God that I work as an auditor and consultant for 2 years because this is what it worked for. So when you're trying to transition, and I think that's a good thing to point out, if someone's watching, they're trying to transition, think about, okay, you're working from a completely different industry, but what are the skills that you think you've acquired in this job right now that you can translate into what you're looking to? Because the hard part about transitioning is that people are going to take a gamble on you. I spoke with someone that said, look, you're a brain surgeon and you want to become a heart surgeon. And sadly, no one wants to be your first patient. So what you're trying to do is say, hey, I know I've always worked in brains, but I think that the things that I learned here, which are X, Y, and Z, I can apply directly working in heart surgery. And those are the things that make a difference.
Okay. So you talked about some of the soft skills. Are there some hard skills that you had to learn along the way? I don't know if you use different softwares, different tools, and so on. So can you guide me a little bit through that, or yeah?
Yeah, the one software that every single bank in the world uses is Excel. And I think that's not every single bank, it's probably every single company. I worked in Excel every single day in the other company, but we kind of use Excel as a fancy Word document. We would just use it to write, to write words and maybe do like a few numbers. But I wasn't doing VLOOKUPs. I wasn't doing like fancy formulas. I wasn't trying to do it without using the mouse or things like that. So if you want to translate, because I remember, when I was interviewing to do wealth management, I remember the team that I am right now asked me, "How are you in Excel?" And I say, "I work in Excel every day." And one of the guys there was like, "Okay, imagine that we're sitting down and I just unplug the mouse and I just give you the keyboard. Can you work in the Excel sheet?" And I was like, "I can do a little bit, but not that much." Now I am completely proficient in being able to just use my keyboard. So I guess if you're trying to go into finance, make sure that you don't have to be the best. Like, you don't have to be the best, but you need to have a base in Excel. So that's one thing. And then the other one that I'd say that a lot of banks use, but not every single one, would be Bloomberg. The thing is that Bloomberg, as you may know, is very expensive, so not every single bank uses it. I think actually none of the people that I know that work in wealth management have like a Bloomberg terminal. A lot of offices might have a few people that have it, and you'll be able to use it. So, for example, at my office, we don't use Bloomberg. My two bosses that do heavy trading, they do it, but we use a system called Refinitiv, which I think is English.
I think it's
So if
on
you
the London Stock Exchange group or something. It's a little bit cheaper compared to Bloomberg, I think.
It's a little bit cheaper compared to Bloomberg, but it has a lot of data and it's good. Obviously Bloomberg's the best, but it's that. So if you can also do a little bit of Bloomberg, like Bloomberg has a famous certification which you've probably done called Bloomberg Marketing Concepts.
Yeah.
If you can do that, it'll be a plus, not a requirement. But Excel is a crucial one because it doesn't matter what finance job you do, doesn't matter what part of the world, you're always going to be using Excel.
Okay. Okay. So, and given the fact that you are in private banking, was it different from a point of view of, meeting with the client, dealing with the client, or is it something that people maybe in more senior positions do?
No, it was, so you mean similar to like what I was doing before as far as like the
Yeah.
engagement with the client?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was. I mean, one thing that helps me, and I think it's also one of the things that was good for me to go into wealth management and what I thought was a good industry for me for the long term is you can see it, and the time that we've been talking right now. I like talking. Like, I'm personable. I'm outgoing when it comes to talking to people. I'm not afraid or anything. So that is important. If you are someone that you don't like talking to people that much, wealth management could still be for you, but you probably want to find something that is a little more behind the scenes. And that's completely fine. I mean, it's a matter of you determining what are your skills and what are not your skills, what are the things that you like doing and not like doing. Because I talk to clients every single day. And at the beginning, it was a little harder. I will get nervous, my voice will tremble a little bit. Then one day you realize that it's a person just like you and I on the other side of the phone, so you have nothing to be worried about, and we all make mistakes. It happens. So yeah, but I mean, I talk to clients every day. The reality of the situation, and this is where I think I'm a little more honest than people. When you're starting in your job, you're not gonna be the person sitting in front of the client recommending a multi-million-dollar investment strategy. You're gonna be the person preparing the material, so your boss can actually propose a strategy, but you're not going to be. But as you move forward in your career, you are going to be sitting in a lot more of those meetings, and also depends what type of development the team has for you. Like, for example, yesterday I sat in a meeting with a prospect, and it's also good because you can kind of develop those skills of seeing how people show it. How people how your bosses usually do the pitches and the engagement and everything. But it is important for you to understand: do I like sitting in front of people? Do I like talking about investment strategies and things like that? Because those are the ones that are going to make a difference, and it's what makes it a little specific to wealth management.
Okay. And I'm always curious about, this business right here on how people engage with the customers, how they find new customers and so on, because from my experience, I've witnessed insurance, but very plain vanilla standard insurance like home insurance, life insurance. What is it like to find customers? How do they do it in wealth management? So they are very, very picky with the clients, I guess.
They are picky because when it comes to wealth management, there's a certain amount of money that if you don't have that, let me give the example super economic specific. There's a point of diminishing marginal utility. Like, there's a point where if you're not above that point, it just doesn't make sense for the team. You get me? So like, there's an X amount of money, and for each team it's different. That if you don't have that money, the amount of time that we're gonna dedicate to you, it's not gonna be efficient or useful compared to the amount of time that we're going to dedicate servicing that client. So that's why a lot of teams have minimums that can be, you know, 5, 10, 25 million dollars. So that's one thing. That's one of the requirements that a lot of teams have, and it depends on the size of the team and everything. And then the other thing is, you know, you think that you're going to be going to a lot of events and trying to find new clients by just connecting and networking, which is a big part. But I'd say the biggest part of finding clients when it comes to ultra high net worth is providing a great service to the clients that you currently have so they can do a lot of referrals.
Yeah.
That's, I say, it's where you find the most clients. Is, you know, you find someone that is a successful doctor because they had a business and they sold their business for a lots of millions of dollars. And, you know, you get connected to that person because you met them at an event or whatever. You want to focus on providing the best service to that doctor because it's very likely that that doctor has a lot of friends that are also doctors, are also very wealthy. And if they get provided a lot of good service and they have a lot of confidence in the team, they're gonna turn around to all their friends and be like, "Hey, man, like these people are really good. You should talk to them." And that's how you find. That's how I've seen that people find the majority of their clients when it comes to wealth management.
Okay. And I guess that, you know, that threshold of money is variable based on, for example, the kids of the client. Maybe you provide services for them as well, so that you
Right. Mm-hmm.
so that
You look at more you should look at more in the relationship amount. So, you know, if you have a family and, you know, you have 4 brothers that each have $5 million, you kind of don't look at it as each brother. You look at it more as like a $20 million relationship.
Yeah, definitely. And talking about, you know, how first of all, how you got into banking and what are the necessary requirements for banking. Let's talk a little bit about certifications and licenses, because yeah, it's an important topic for people working in this field. So I think you got the CFA level 1 cleared, right? And
Correct. Starting for level 2 right now.
Okay. So let's talk a little bit about the CFA, and then we'll get into the licenses and the necessary licenses.
Yeah, definitely. So for me, the CFA was also during that time of switching from one industry to the other. I kind of mentioned, I had been working there for 2 years, or was approaching 2 years. And what I thought about myself was, look, I'm coming from a great company. The company that I worked before is one of the biggest consulting firms. And it is applicable, but I am coming from a different industry. And what I was thinking was, how do I compare to the people that are in my same position that are also looking for jobs in private banking? And the reality was, I had been working at this consulting firm for 2 years, and the people that I was going against were probably people that have been working in other banks for 2 years. So I had to say, it's like, okay, I don't have the 2 years of experience in a bank, but how can I make myself more competitive? So what I thought was, I can get 2 years of experience working at a bank, but I can try to get the technical skills that will make me similar as far as knowledge to someone that has been working in the bank for 2 years. And that's the reason why I started the CFA, because I thought I can get that experience, but I can try to get the technical skills. So I started studying for the CFA. You've done a lot of videos with people that are already CFAs in the channel, but just to put into perspective, the CFA is a 3 exam certification. You have to take one exam probably around every 6 to 12 months. Usually people do it. Each exam is like 4 hours long, but more important than that, you study anything between 6 to 9 months and around 300 hours for each one. So that's what I did. I studied for the CFA level 1, and people liked it because they saw enthusiasm, because even if you don't have the CFA, you know what it takes. So even if I didn't pass the CFA, the fact that I was studying for it, that I was, you know, foregoing so many things like spending time with family or going out with friends to study for an exam that took so much time studying, could demonstrate that I was very interested in doing the switch that I was doing. And more importantly, I was very serious about doing the switch. Because that's the other thing. A lot of people, when you're trying to make that switch, will be, you know, this person worked in this job for 2 years and then he just woke up one day and decided that he didn't want to do it, so he wants to try something new. And people are scared that you're going to work with them for 2 years or even less and then switch to something else because you just don't know what you want to do. So it's more of another layer of saying, I'm very serious about this and I'm sure that this is what I want to do. So that's why I started the CFA. I passed it, very happy, and now I'm studying for level 2.
Okay. Okay. So, in your case specifically, I guess there are many other certifications that could work as well. Probably not as famous as the CFA. For example, the CFP Certified Financial Planner, or there are others as well. Why did you choose the CFA specifically?
The CFA is undisputed. They call it here in the US the gold standard. It really is the gold standard of finance because it's just so hard to get it because it's so much time commitment and the exams are are so hard. And also people like even the exam rates have been going down and so many people do it. So little people do it. So that's why I went to CFA. It was really the best one. And it also with the CFA, it's also very broad because the CFA has so many topics. The CFA has 10 different topics. Um, and a lot of people usually use it when they want to do like security analysis, like when they want to do like stock grades and things like that. But with that certification, you can pretty much work in whatever you want in finance. A few of the other certifications are a little more specific and a little more specific to like one spot. So I felt like it narrowed me down a little more. That was kind of my second reasoning. So the with the certified financial planner. Certified financial planner is one that is very frequent and very much seen in wealth management. But if you want to do something outside of wealth management, it's not as useful. So if tomorrow I want to go and I want to work as a portfolio manager or as a security analyst, the CFP wouldn't be as useful. It probably just wouldn't be relevant. The other one that is pretty well known, that it's also kind of well known for wealth management, but a lot more for people that work in portfolio management for alternative investments, is the CAIA, so CAIA, which is a certified alternative investments analyst, I think. That one's also pretty frequent. The thing is that one's a little easier, and if I were to pass the CFA and wanted to get another certification, it would help me that I have the CFA because they let you skip a few of the requirements. So that one is one that I'll probably think in the future. But as far as making the transition, what I was looking for in a certification, the CFA was the best one.
Okay. And talk a little bit about the licenses, because I guess you need to have some, as I said, licenses in order to work in this field. And how do they compare to the certifications in terms of workload, commitment, and so on? You talked about before about the Series 7, I guess. And yeah,
Right.
can you guide us a little bit through that?
Yeah. So to start with, you will need to take an exam that is fairly new. I think it's been around for 2 years. It's called the Certified It's the SIE. I think it's Securities Industries Exam. SIE. That is the exam that is a base, and once you pass that exam, it allows you to take all the other exams that are out there. I think there's like 79 different exams that you can take, but the ones that are probably going to be relevant to people watching this video are going to be 3 to 4. If you want to work in finance, if you want to work in wealth management, so private banking, you always need to take what I call the wealth management trilogy, which are the SIE, and then after that is going to be the Series 7 and the Series 66. Series 7, it's almost 100% guarantee you're going to have to take. The 66 depends on the type of bank that you're working on. Those are the ones that allow you. So the Series 7, what basically the Series 7 does, and it's pretty well known because, for example, they mentioned it in Wolf of Wall Street. It's a license that licenses you and allows you to buy and sell financial products for other people. So I can go right now into my investing account and I can buy a share of Apple. But for you to call me and say buy a share of Apple for me, I have to have the Series 7. So once you have that certification, that's what allows you to do trading of anything, bonds, stocks, and everything. And when you're working for a wealth management team, they want you to have their certification because they want you to be trading, maybe not super often, but here and there. And then the 66, it's what allows you to provide financial advice to clients. So for you to sit down and have a conversation and everything, even if you're not sitting down with the client and providing financial advice, you're probably going to be preparing the presentations or the materials. So you need those certifications. I'll mention two more things. So one is what you mentioned of how hard they are. I have, and this is going to be a little controversial, I have a point of view, which is that the exams are not necessarily that difficult. You just have to study a lot. So different than CFA, that is an exam that you can spend 300 studying and not pass. These exams are, I always call it pretty linear. It's what you put in is what you're going to get out. So for me, when I studied, for example, for the Series 7, I studied, I think it was 35 hours. I'd say that for someone to pass, if you don't have a financial background, it's going to be anything between 40 to 60, maybe 70 hours.
Okay.
The hard part is you probably do that when you're studying, when you're working full time. So you have to, have the ability of sitting down and studying afterward. Then the one last thing that I'll mention is if you want to work in something like investment banking, which maybe a few of the people watching want to do that, you have to take the Series 79, which is pretty similar. And you also take the SIE. Oh, and sorry, and one last thing that I'll mention is the SIE. Let's just start with the SIE. It's an exam that you can take on your own time without having a company to sponsor it. So when I took those exams, I did it still when I was working in the consulting company because I knew I wanted to switch. So when I showed up with my resume and I showed that I already had 2 of the 3 exams that I had to take because I paid it with my money, I paid the study materials with my money, and I did it in my own time. That's one of the things that showed the employer that I was very interested of making the switch.
Okay. And I don't know if this question makes sense to you, but given the fact that you're likely to face with clients more and more going forward, do you think that, for example, you speak also Spanish, does that help in an environment maybe like Miami that you speak a lot of Spanish, I guess? Does that help to thrive into a job where you have to face clients and yeah?
Definitely. 100%. I come from a family.
Do you come across people that prefer to speak Spanish compared to English?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. And for example, 2 weeks ago, we had a meeting with a client, and my boss, who usually runs the relationship, asked me to go because he knew that client liked speaking in Spanish, and I'm one of the people that speaks Spanish in the team, and they asked me to go. And I think obviously Miami, because it's very international, we're so close to Latin America, so the majority of the people that have money invested in the US but are from Latin America have it invested in, it's usually either Miami, Texas, or New York. But I think anywhere in the world, speaking a language is going to help you so much for when it comes to wealth management. Like if you work in Italy, for example, if you spoke, French or Spanish, since you have those countries that are so close to you, that would help you so much because there's going to be clients that are going to want to speak in that language. Finance, you're talking about the people's money and people's life saving. So if you give them the opportunity of speaking in their native language, it helps so much. And it doesn't have to be Spanish. It doesn't have to be Italian. English, I think it has to be because English is just the international language. But any other language you can get, you'd be impressed what doors you can open. It's like I speak a little bit of French. I don't speak it fully yet. And we have clients that are, that are from France or they've been here living in a long time. And you have the opportunity or the ability of calling them and speaking in their native language. They love it.
Okay. I'm working on my French, but yeah, we'll get to that.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm done with the questions. It was very interesting to hear from you. If you have anything else you want to add, of course, make sure to check out the channel, Talk to C. I'll link it in the description. Falc, thank you for your time. And if you have anything else you want to add, feel free to do so.
No, thank you. Thank you so much for having me. This was really fun. Hopefully I provided, some good information for the people watching. Yeah, definitely please check out the channel. And if anyone has any questions or would like to connect with me, I'll put my email there or any comments that you want to leave here. I'll definitely check them out. And thank you so much for having me. This was really fun.
I'll pin the comment.
Thank you.
Okay. So thank you for taking the time. This is it for today. I'm Giacomo. This is Also Hub. See you next time.